Alright guys, welcome back to another video with Chris, and today we're going to be going over the second blue leader that's coming out in set 18. It's going to be the Son Goku Otherworld Goku, Angelku. There's been a bunch of different names for him. Very interesting leader that we have here. So first of all, you cannot include black battle cards in your deck. So it also includes your Z energy. So you cannot include the black Vegeta promo that everyone's really talking about, that's being like a... it's like a staple essentially for every deck, just because it allows you to self-awaken. But you can't play any black cards, and overwhelm, none of that stuff in the deck. And honestly, when you look at the actual archetype, it makes sense. You don't want to be able to overwhelm. But activate main, you discard 3 Otherworld Budokai cards from your hand and get to draw 3 cards. So you don't actually draw when you attack. It's very it's kind of a slower concept deck. But the idea is that you pitch these Budokai cards and you draw cards off of that. Now the Awaken if you have 4 life or less, or there are 3 or more Angel Halo cards in your drop. You may draw 1, restand 1, and then strike life down to 6. And then on the other side, you are now the Otherworld Fighter. Discard 1 from your card from your hand when this card attacks, draw 1. So you're not really actually drawing a card off of this, you're just more so cycling a card. However, activate main on this card, you choose 2 Otherworld Budokai cards from your drop, set them to the warp, add up to 1 Angel Halo from your drop to your hand. So this Angel Halo card is essentially a card that you are going to continuously keep recycling. And essentially on this side you are plussing 1. You just have to do an extra step in order to do it, which is, it's, it is what it is. And on the activate battle, choose 2 Otherworld Budokai cards with 5k combo power from your warp and combo them. And then they get minus 3k combo power with their skills negated for the turn. So the idea of this, though, is that you can now add them back to your drop to then cycle them again for another activate main or other effects that they do have. Now, there is no Z Awaken for this leader, but this leader does have a lot of cool, interesting little tricks. Has a very unique way of recycling these extra cards called Angel Halos, which we're going to go over obviously in the deck. No overwhelm mechanics, as we already talked about. But it does, you do establish some warp activity, whether it's your combos or different cards you actually can play from your warp. And this deck does lack a true, I would say it lacks, but it has very strong boss monsters, and definitely some boss monster concepts that just take a little bit of setup in order for them to work. But they are pretty effective once they do hit the board, which is what we're going to go over now in the deck profile portion of the video. Alright guys, so we're going to go here into the deck, and this is a 58 card deck. It's very, I built a little bit on the heavier side, but we're just trying to fit some tech cards in here. We do need to fit a lot of Budokai cards in here because it's kind of how the deck will function, and it's what we kind of need in order to be able to use one of our boss monsters in the deck. So first we're going to start with Angel Halo. We only run 3, just because the card, you can get this card back pretty quickly. It's a interesting little card you can end up using. It's what this card does, you give a battle card or your leader 1k for the battle. Then if you have a mono blue Z battle card in play, it gets 4k. You get 5k. You technically basically get like a blue, it's like a blue I don't know what, like a blue 4-star ball essentially. And then our leader is able to recycle this, so essentially we're kind of like playing like a blue Kid Ku sort of deck, right? Now we maxed out on the Galaxy Warriors here. This guy is a cycle. When you play him, you draw a card, and then you put a Otherworld card from your warp to your drop, which just allows you to just recycle those cards so you can activate their effects again. If you send this card to the owner's warp, you discard 1 Angel card from your hand. You get to add a Budokai card between 3 and 7 from your warp to your hand. It's cool. You can grab back some pieces. Nothing crazy with that. This is a negate, and also if you pitch an Angel Halo, your opponent cannot attack with 5 or less unless they bottom deck a card. It's cool. It's an in-archetype floodgate, so that's not bad. It also allows you to put an Angel Halo in the drop, but you have to have an Angel Halo in hand in order to do that, which you more than likely will. But this is actually a 15k, which is nice. The other guy was a 5k, so you actually get to swing at this guy, which is pretty cool. This guy you actually can play from your warp by discarding 1 Angel Halo from your hand. If you discard a Budokai card from your hand, when this card is played, you draw, and then you bottom, not bottom deck, you return a card to your opponent's hand. So why this is good is that in this next format, Z battle cards and ultimates, when they are removed, they leave the battle area. I think I talked about this a little bit in the PyCon deck. So that's actually pretty cool. So you actually can bounce the that 2-drop Vegeta SR that most of the red decks are going to be playing. You can bounce it, and then it's just going to leave the game, and it's going to be gone. So like this is actually really cool for you to be able to do that, and you know, it's definitely an interesting little tool for the deck. Sucks that it has no defense. That's a kind of a problem, but you know, it is what it is. Secret Rare again, Unity, United Divinity. I think this card is very good. There are going to be people who say that Baby Hatch obviously is just a better choice, and they would not be wrong. I think Baby Hatch is a great choice, but I do think this card gives blue some interesting tools, and it's definitely something I think worth attempting in a lot of blue decks. And I think as people slowly go on and we get into Nat's format, I think we will start seeing this card being played in some blue decks. Maybe not all blue decks, but some blue decks. So if you guys know what this card does, for each card in your opponent's energy, this card gets reduced by 3. And permanent, you can't place cards on top of this card, which is fine. If your opponent has 4 more energy, when this card is played, you can switch all of your mono blue energy to active mode. So why this card is cool is that if you are playing against a blue matchup, like a SS4 or the new reboot Goku leader that's going to ramp itself, you play against blue Whis. These are all decks that we have seen that potentially will, you know, be in the format. This card actually gets reduced far quicker. So you actually can play this guy very early, as early as like turn 2, turn 3. And having a 40k triple attack, pretty difficult for them to deal with unless they have like a really hard floodgate. Just something to consider. So for like the normal tech stuff, we have 2 boos in here because it's a great unison. 4 D magic, 4 senzu bean. These can always be cut down a little bit depending on your playstyle. And then the other one is going to be the baby unison. So originally I was running the 17 and 18 unison because of the defense that the card gives you. However, this deck suffers from one really big thing, and that is draw power. So being able to play one of the most the most sticky unisons in the game, I would feel. Being a +2 in this next format is going to be very good, and it draws you a card. It's hard to beat. It's very hard to beat. Also, this bottom effect, being able to give your leader 15k in double strike for the turn, and activating counter skill from your hand is pretty cool. So you actually can activate all the stuff from your hand, and gives you a little bit of an opening, so we can actually can punch through for game a lot of the time. Now, so we're gonna get to a lot of the new cards here, and we have the new boss monster, the Super Saiyan Son Goku Another World Blitz. 30k, deflect, triple strike, barrier blocker. When this card is played, you draw 1, and you choose X amount of your opponent's battle cards, where X is the number of extra cards in your drop. Place them at the bottom of their owner's deck in any order, but essentially you can just board wipe your opponent while you draw a card. Auto at the end of the turn, switch this card to active mode, and switch up to one of your mono blue energy to active mode. So this is once per turn. It says limit 1. You can have multiple of these in play, but you're only going to be able to restand one of these and an energy once per turn, so you can't do that with multiple. And the activate main, if there are no battle cards in your drop, play this card from your hand. So one of the problems I was finding is, as I was building this deck, is that realistically you can't play a lot of interesting tech cards in this deck. You have to play a Budokai heavy battle card deck, as well as being able to use some extra card tech in order to keep this deck sufficient. So if you actually see, there is not a God Ceiling to be seen. Granted, I don't think God Ceiling is that amazing right now in this next coming format, but you do not see God Ceiling at all, and we are not relying on God Ceiling in this deck. Unfortunately, it's kind of a dead card, right? So God Ceiling, if you guys don't know, God Ceiling, you use it goes to the drop area. Well, this card, you need to have no battle cards in your drop area to be able to play. And this card can cycle Budokai cards to the warp. But unfortunately, you are not cycling non-Budokai cards. So how can you... And you can't overwhelm. So how are you going to play out your boss monster if you play out these type of cards, right? So we have to kind of think a little bit harder. Okay, how can we actually do this? So outside of just not running some of those cards, I also included Max Power Kamehameha in the main board, because we can send 4 cards from our drop to the warp and gather those cards back. Now, why that's good is that this allows us to warp cards like our secret rare if it ends up going into the drop, you know, copies of, if we ran God Sealing, we have a baby ape here, so we can actually, you know, get rid of that. But this just allows us to hit those cards. So if you do want to play something like God Sealing, you'd be able to, and this card would be a little more significant for that. Now, the other non-Budokai card that I'm running battle card wise outside of Golden Ape is the Ultra Sign Goku, because this can evolve on top of a 5 or more. So currently we only have one target in this deck, and I kept it that way just because of ratio wise and not trying to overflow into non-Budokai cards. But there are definitely other targets that you can run, but this is a card that you can actually end up evolving into. Now, this card is probably good to have on board for at least a turn. But then you can also evolve into this and just go for game with your -5 and having a baby to back you up. It's basically game at that point. So we just run one of these guys in here. Now, the other extra card that I'm running 2 Final Hope Slash, since we're not running a God Sealing. This, you can bounce back a 15k ignoring barrier, and it restands in energy, and if you have a unison in play, this card costs 0. So this card's never found play at all, which it surprises me because the card is so good. However, with the addition of the Z battle cards, and this card essentially removes them from the game, it's going to find a home in some blue decks. I think in the main board, just because we don't have God Sealing, I think this card's a pretty good target to actually use. So we're going to keep it in there. The other one is God Slicing Black Kamehameha. Very powerful card. You pitch 2 cards from your hand to activate it for free if you want, where if you have a blue unison in play, you draw one, and then you bottom deck a 4 or less coming into play. So you actually can pitch like Angel Halos and Budokai cards. It's pretty interesting, right? It just allows you to, it also recycles itself. So this just allows you to hit stuff, and since it's an extra card, it's not going to affect our Budokai ratios and stop us from playing our big boss monster here on turn 4. Everything else in the deck that's not Golden Ape here and the Unison are going to be Budokai cards. So we have for the Grand Kai unit super combo, because it's World Budokai. Essentially, we have to run the World Budokai cards. North Kai, 1 drop. You can activate main to put an Angel Halo into your drop. Or you can tap 1 to add a Angel Halo from your life to your drop. If you do, you ramp a life, or you can place 1 Angel Halo in your drop. So the idea of this card is you want to be able to put the Angel Halos in your drop using this card here. Get all of them in there, and then you can use your leader effect and then add them back. It's pretty interesting there. We have Bubbles, Hide and Seeker. This is your promo that's coming out in this coming set. Two big effects on this card. 1, we can pitch it to search top 5 for a Budokai 3 or less, so it searches out super combos, it searches out all of these guys up here, searches out itself and North Kai as well. But then you can send it to the you can send it from your drop to the warp, and then you get to place up to 1 angel from your drop to your deck. From your deck to your drop. So you can pitch it off of your leader front here to draw 3, and then you can tap 1 to then put an angel into your drop, just giving you setup basically for next turn, so when you can probably awaken. And then we have our mid-game tempo card, which is going to be the Goku Pycon. You pitch 2 blue extra cards from your hand. If you have 3 or more energy, the card gets barrier for the turn. It is a 15k dual attack deflect barrier. The card attacks, you get the combo with a mono blue card with 5k combo power from the drop, and you get the bottom deck 1 of your opponent's cards. This is not a once per turn, so you get to swing twice for 20 and bottom deck 2 cards, and then at the end of the turn you draw a card and switch up to 1 energy to active mode. And this is every turn, so this is auto every turn at the end of your turn. If you have multiple of these, you get to do this multiple times. This card didn't get killed a lot on the turn afterwards, but the card's going to do its job. It's a very, very powerful card. Very, very specific on how it needs to be played, and I'm sure it's not going to be... It may be teched into some other decks, but right now there's not a lot of other decks that run extra cards, at least a lot of extra cards that you want to pitch, so kind of a little odd there, but it's a very cool concept. I think this deck is fun at best. It's because of the restrictions to what you need to run, it's very difficult for this deck to compete with other blue decks in the game, just because you have to run so many World Budokai cards. And it sucks because both of these cards are so Like this card will be good in other decks because you're going to be able to just overwhelm, get rid of all your battle cards. This card's just really hard to play in other decks other than Pycon in this deck. Like, you can probably, there probably going to be some blue deck that you're going to be able to just like play this in, it's going to be snapped. But currently it's very difficult to actually get this card to be used. So, we'll have to see what goes on. But this is the deck that I have for you guys here. Hope you guys enjoy it. Make sure you guys like and subscribe if you guys enjoy the content as well as the you know building excitement for set 18. So I will bid you guys adieu. You guys have a good rest of your night, and I will see you guys in the next video.